15 years now. And
I don't know if all of them have.
in the context of this conversation of trying to reclaim some inner life, I'd love to know, what does your creative practice look like on a day-to-day level, and what is its relationship to technology in your life?
Well, first of all, I'd love to say that I did have a creative practice that was daily. I guess for me, when I'm doing a big project like writing a novel, which I've written 2 of, that is definitely an everyday task. Because if you don't work on it every day, you're never going to finish your novel. But technology I find interesting because as a musician and a writer, I really need it, right? You really need technology in order to promote your work. I mean, it's just a real reality. You can't really tell people about your shows or a book or an album unless you share it on the social medias. But in my personal life, I must say that there's a huge amount of encroachment that then happens, and I'm sure that a lot of us have found that encroachment happening over the years as smartphones have become so prevalent in every minute of our life. And now it's really, for me, about making an incredibly conscious effort to carve out creative space for myself. And I do that via trying to be really disciplined. And I feel like it's the only way that we can really approach technology well is to approach it really consciously and really mindfully. Because the thing that it really creates, I think, is this sort of sense of constant chaos. Like there's messages and there's notifications and there's all this stuff. And as a creative person, becoming in a kind of flow of creative work doesn't really truck well with distraction. And so you really need to sort of shut that sort of stuff off in order to reach a kind of space that enables kind of creative flow. I was talking earlier to Jocelyn, one of our panellists, about a book called Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport, which I read recently, which I found really helpful. And I kind of combine that with stuff that I was already doing, because I feel like if I do really important things at the beginning of the day that give the day a certain flavour, for example, if I meditate and if I exercise, then the rest of the day has this really great flavour to it, and everything feels better than the days when I don't do those things. So in terms of a daily routine, that certainly helps, not just creatively, but on a personal level. But yeah, I found his approach to it really well in terms of trying to look at technology and thinking, is this the best technology to suit this aim that I'm using it for? And do I even need technology at all for that? Or could I sort of go back to basics? So yeah, it's definitely something I think a lot about. I guess my main thing that I try and do is, and I do this a lot, I write lists of what I consider to be valuable uses of my time. Gardening, that song is about what I consider a very valuable use of my time. And these lists kind of get updated. Oh, that's interesting.
I think it's the machines
that
are trying to rebel, as you discard them from your life.
I have several lists of what I consider to be like high-value activities, whether that be spending time with my family or reading or gardening or being outdoors or just enjoying solitude, which I think most of us don't really do much of anymore, a kind of solitude where you're just alone with your own thoughts. It's quite rare these days. And then I guess I try really hard to give the minutes of my day to valuable activities as much as possible. And I feel if I do that for a day, the day feels fantastic. And if I spend a day doing stuff like, if you just have one of those days when you're just scrolling, it gets stuck in some kind of loop that feels like a waste of time, then I guess that feeling of the minutes of your life being the most important kind of thing that we have, I feel quite Buddhist about that philosophy. And, the idea of how you spend your day is being how you spend your life, which is inevitably true. Then I do try and be as conscious as I can to carve out that time for myself.
Thanks, Holly.
Thanks, Scott.